announcements here. If you can remember, BarnettAlliance.org. Please go and sign the petition for the referendum. We are approaching the 7,000 signature goal. Everybody takes some individual responsibility. The council does not take responsibility for our services. They are about to offload them. I don't know why they wanted to be councillors if they didn't want responsibility.
Maybe the government wants to abolish councils altogether. Make it cheaper.
Listen, the idea of this gathering is like Barnet Council has its own residence forums, and a year ago they were the rules were changed so that we actually weren't allowed to talk about what we wanted to talk about. We were literally only allowed to talk about potholes and allotments and things that are happening in your street.
Only once every 6 months.
Every 6 months. Okay, so we were banned from talking about policy. That's everything, isn't it? Policy. We were banned from talking about borough-wide issues. What issue is not, affect every part of the borough?
So we started our own.
Yeah, we started our own residence forums, and the idea is you go back to, you can say what you like, you can raise any issue you want, and the idea of this meeting tonight is that
You can lead them.
is there anyone has any questions about any aspect of one Barnet or anything that's on their liver, or any campaign that they want to discuss, or anything? Then everyone should have a say.
Come closer.
Gabriella.
Could I ask Deborah?
Yeah.
Could I ask just two questions supplementary coming from yours? First of all, the judicial reviews, how will that hold things up and act against any decisions being made? And B, how is this meeting tonight going to be effective? Can a decision still be made in spite of what we're doing now?
Yes, they are making it now.
They're making it now.
They're talking over
Yes, but they have not signed the contract, and the judicial review can delay that action. And I think if there are two judicial reviews, Capita might be looking around and saying, what's going on in the borough of Barnet? They don't want us there. This is going to take some time.
We don't know.
Yes, this man here. And this man.
We can also apply for
Can you
an
stick
injunction.
up?
Can you speak up, please?
Oh, did
Yeah, it did.
Okay, so additionally, once the application for a judicial review has been made, so the application hasn't yet been made, it's just been a pre-action protocol letter, but once that's been made, we can also apply for an injunction on the signing of a contract prior to, the outcome of the judicial review being determined. So I think that's really important. Yeah.
They take secret votes in cabinet. We don't have democracy in Barnet, I suppose, throughout all the councils throughout the whole country. How do we go about getting democracy in the council?
This is how we do it. This is how we get democracy. We are residents. We have a right. We have a right to determine our own future.
Yeah, but we need a policy, and we need a way, and we need actually to have control over the council, or something. We need an actual form of democracy, and we need a policy, and it's about the time we start thinking about that from now. And there are ways of running a council. It's not only a question of keeping the services in-house, it's a question of, first of all, not wasting money. For example, that I can tell you now, £30 million worth of contracts, more than that, are going to firms that the council knows are fraudulent. Nick Walkley admitted that. He said, well, we're bound by the contract now, we can't do anything about it. And the fraud that they committed was big rigging. They were actually cheating other councils, council residents, council taxpayers. And so we have to have, first of all, we would have to have a policy that said we won't carry on providing contracts to people that we know are cheating us. Secondly, there are ways in which you can actually raise money for the council. There are the public services that used to belong to the people, either on a municipal basis or a national basis, still they're making a lot of money. The BT itself used to belong to us, remember? It didn't, it wasn't run democratically the way we would run it now if we had control over it again. But it still wasn't in the hands of these parasitic companies that they're not real businesses. They're just money collecting organizations. So we've got BT, we've got gas, electricity, water. This councils like Barnet, because another thing, Barnet Council, the councils all in the UK are paying £2 billion a year to the government, which the government pays over to the banks that well, they gave them money actually, for house building programs that have been long finished about 20, 30 years ago or more. These are house building programs. They were actually, as a matter of fact, they were paid for by the government at that time. They weren't loans, they were paid for by the government. But the banks are still getting in, the costs still going to the national debt, and £2 billion a year is coming off councils in order to pay back that debt to the banks. In interest, that's an interest payment alone. That's what they're, so we're, in other words, 100 million, is that right? £10 million per council is being multiplied by the 200 odds local authorities.
Right.
Would belong to us. So there are ways, anyway, I'm not going to start a policy now, but there are ways in which councils can become financially viable and you could provide a whole range of new services that haven't been thought of. There are other councils that have done this already.
Oh, well, briefly, two things. One is we're really against police cuts as well. The other thing, at the meeting, you heard what Robert Rams said.
Well, barely.
No, to add some more about what people are saying is scaremongering. I will remind people, February 2010, there was a council meeting, and I talked about that if they get back in power, they will close Free and Barnet Library. I was accused at that meeting of scaremongering. You saw what happened to Free and Barnet Library, so you know how much you can trust them. But also there's a lot of lessons to learn from what has been a successful community campaign, direct action campaign, at Free and Barnet Library. So things can happen. You can make a difference. We can stand alongside you, which is the council's role. We don't have to lead you, we can stand alongside you. But do be very clear that the moral high ground is about the democracy and the accountability. Keep that in mind and think about who's accountable. If Free and Barnet Library, no, we're not going to close it. That's, you're just scaremongering to get voted in. They get voted in, and what happened? So we know when they talk about scaremongering here, we've hit a nerve. They are a bit scared about the implications of what they're doing. But in there, you can hear a rubber stamp going down. That's all that's happening in there. So don't expect too much of changing people's minds. As Leon said, you have to change people's minds by making that change happen yourself, and not just hoping other people see sense.
It's also very good to remember that the number of signatures on the petition to get a referendum about this wretched One Barnet has now exceeded, I think I'm safe in saying, it has reached or exceeded the holy number, and I don't know why it's a magical number, but it's a magical number of 7,000.